Europe, chapter 13 of Exodus, verse 20. Vayisume Sukkot, the children of Israel traveled from Sukkot, Vayachanu ve'etam b'ktzei midbar, and they camped in Etam at the edge of the wilderness. Rashi says, Vayisume Sukkot, they journeyed from Sukkot. Rashi says, Biyom Hashini, on the second day after their departure, Sharei Berishon, because on the first day they came from Ramses to Sukkot. So on the first day, the Jewish people traveled. It says that they went out in the wilderness, and it says, Vayasevel kimasam derech hamidbar yam suf. And Moshe took the bones of Joseph with him. And then, so Vayisume Sukkot. So it hasn't said anything about here about where they've gone. But Rashi says that Sukkot was the second place that they came to on the second day, because, meaning to say, Rashi says, actually, this is what I meant to say. Rashi says on the first day that they went to, the first place they came to, in chapter 13, verse 17, verse 9, verse 20, you have the page? Anybody have the page? Let's say. You have the page? Okay, so on the first, people are looking for the page. What page is it?
357.
357. Because on the first day that they traveled, they came to this place called Sukkot. So this is very significant that Rashi's telling us this, because what we're saying is the first place they journeyed to was Sukkot. And we're saying, keep a Sukkot Shafti et Bnei Israel. Why do we dwell in Sukkot? So one explanation is, the Talmud says, the Torah says, keep a Sukkot Shafti et Bnei Israel, because it caused the children of Israel to dwell in Sukkot. But where does it say that we lived in Sukkot? So maybe it's a reference to this, that the very first day we left Egypt, we came to Sukkot. You understand what I'm saying? What? Right.
Sukkot the booth and Sukkot the place.
Exactly. It's a pun. Or it's not, I mean, it's significant.
Right.
Very first day we left, we came to Sukkot. And so that's the significance of why we sit in Sukkot. So when people say, why do you sit in Sukkot? It's not that just we dwelt in booths when we left Egypt, but we dwelt in the place that's called Sukkot when we left Egypt. Kibbutz Sukkot Hoshafti et Bnei Israel. So the very first place we stayed in was Sukkot. It was also the very first place Jacob came to when Jacob came to the land of Canaan. Okay, so now we're up to the next verse 21. God traveled before them during the day, Ba'amun in a pillar of cloud, to guide them along the way, and at night, by a pillar of fire, by a pillar of fire to illuminate for them, to walk through the day and the night. So during the day they had a cloud, and at night they had a pillar of fire. Rashi, okay, let's look at Rashi. Rashi tells us, Chotam Aderech Nakud Patach. The Lamed of Chotam has a Patach, which means that it's the causative. Shehu Kemo Lehan Chotam, meaning to say, Kemo Larotchem Baderech Asher Telchu Bo, to show you the road that you should travel. And Shehu Kemo Laharotchem. God is leading them through an emissary. God is leading them through an emissary. Who is this emissary? Hold on. Who is this emissary? Who is this emissary? The emissary is Hamud Anan. The emissary is the pillar of cloud, the cloud of glory of God. That's the emissary. God would cause the cloud of glory to go before the Bnei Israel. That's why the verse tells us that God was going before them. It's not that God was causing the cloud of glory to go before them. Even though God was there, he prepared the pillar of cloud to lead them. Through the pillar of the cloud they were going. The cloud was not there to give them light, but to guide them along the route. In verse 22, the pillar of the cloud did not depart during the day, nor did the pillar of fire depart before them at night. Rashi says, Lo Yamish, he would not remove. God never removed the fire, the cloud, or the pillar of the fire. He didn't remove it. He didn't remove it. Just to tell us that the light of the pillar of the cloud would overlap the light of the pillar of fire. Before one would set, the other would rise. Okay, so that's okay. So now we're up to chapter 14, verse 1. So God spoke to Moses and said, Daber al bnei Israel, speak to the children of Israel via Shuvu, and tell them to turn back via Chanu lefnei piachirot, bein migdol bein ayam lefnei bal tzafon nechachot hachanu ayam. So God says to Moshe to tell the people, go turn back and camp before the piachirot, between Migdol and the sea, in front of Baal Tzifon. You shall encamp opposite by the sea. So this is a trick. God is trying to trick Pharaoh. Look what Rashi says. The Yashuva, let them turn back. La'achoreim, to their rear. With Sa Mitzrayim ayum mikarvin, they were approaching closer to Egypt. Kol yom hashlishi kedei lahatot et Paro. They were approaching Egypt the whole third day in order to mislead Paro. Sheyomer toim heim baderach, that they are lost. Pharaoh wants to say, as it states, V'amar Paro of Bnei Israel, and Paro will say about the children of Israel, V'yachanu lefnei piachirot, and they camped in front of the piachirot. What is that? Rashi says that's a reference to Pitom. V'achshav nikra piachirot. Now it's called piachirot al shem shenasu b'nei chorin, because they became free. Ve'im shnei silaim gvoim zekufim. These are two tall upright rocks. It's called the mouth of the rocks in front of Baal Tzafon. This is the only God that remained from all the gods of the Egyptians in order to mislead the Egyptians. We wanted them to think that their God is hard to destroy. And about this, Job explained he leads the nations astray. So God intentionally led the Egyptians astray. It's a very troubling idea. It's a very troubling idea that God intentionally led the Egyptians astray. I mean, what could possibly motivate God to want to do that, except to punish them? But he intentionally led the Egyptians astray.
Any more trouble in his heart being Pharaoh's heart.
Right. Well, Pharaoh's heart still has some agency here. He intentionally tricked them. Yeah. Okay. So now what does it say? The Amar Paro of Bnei Israel, and Paro said to the children of Israel. Well, he really didn't say to the children of Israel. Rashi is going to tell us it means about the children of Israel. They are confused. The wilderness has closed in around them. Rashi tells us, Paro says, when Paro hears this, he will say, Al b'nei Israel, about the children of Israel. That's what Rashi says. The word la can mean about. Okay. Verse 4. And I will harden their Judah. You have something to add?
Yeah, I mean, if your enemy is coming against you, you can use every trick in the book. It's not he's punishing Paro. He's, when someone comes to kill, he's supposed to get up in the morning and kill him first, right? So he's running after them.
Right.
Okay, I think.
Yeah, but except that they could clearly have gotten away. But he wanted to destroy Egypt forever. That's the point. wants to destroy them forever. You're right, Judah. We have to stand up for ourselves. So God is helping us. Rashi says, they are locked up and embedded. In French, it's belaz sirir, meaning to say to lock in, to crowd or to squeeze. Seri in English. As it states, they're confined. They don't know how to get out of it. Okay, verse 4. God says, I will harden Pharaoh's heart. He will pursue after them. And I will be glorified. Here the word is ikavda. I will be glorified through Pharaoh and through all of his army. Interestingly enough, and they will know, interesting, Rashi says, ikavda Pharaoh means, when God takes vengeance against the wicked, his name becomes magnified and glorified. As it states, Patati ito, I will contend with him. And then it says, Viskadalti, Viskadashti, Vinodati. But the interesting thing about this is ikavda. Does anybody know where in the Bible it says ikavod? Ikavod? This is ikavda.
Hophni's son.
Yeah, so Eli has children, and their children's names, his children gives birth to a child called Ikavod. And there it means the opposite of Ikavda. Here God's saying, I'll be glorified, but there it means that they've lost all glory and honor. Ikavod means they've lost all glory and honor. And so that's the future generations of the Jewish people will be the opposite of Ikavda.
Why does God have this need to be glorified?
Well, Jeff is asking a more fundamental question. Why does God have this need to be glorified? I mean, you could argue that because God is telling us that when God is glorified, more people want to imitate God's ways and imitate God's actions and do all the beautiful things that God does in the world. So when God's name is made great, people will want to copy it and be on the right side of history.
The Pharaoh, in his first conversation with Moses, put God down like he's a nobody. He said, "Me, Adonai Kishma Kolo," right? Like he treated him like less than dirt. So
right.
So it's not that God needs anything, but
people need, the world needs to know about God. Yeah, I cut off Dan, I think.
Well, there was a lot of competition, right? A lot more competition among gods at the time. Yeah,
there's a lot of competition. In fact, that's what God is saying here. We go against Baal Tzafon. There's a lot of competition here. Exactly right. So the power of Rashi tells us, unless you're having some compassion, Pharaoh started the sin against the Israelites when we menu with Chila Paraniot, and against Pharaoh the punishment will begin. Okay. So next verse, chapter 14, verse 5. I'm sorry?
One more Dibur Rashi.
Vayasuchein, and they did this. And so the children of Israel did this. They listened exactly to what God told Moses to do. Vayasuchein, that they turned back. Agit shivchan. Sheshamu kol Moshe v'lo amru hechnit karev al rotfenu. They listened to the voice of Moshe. They didn't say, how will we come closer to our enemies? Anu tzrichim uvroach. We need to run the other way. They said, we only rely upon, all we have are the words of the son of Amram. Okay. Verse 5. The king of Egypt was told that the people had ran away. Oh, and all of a sudden here, the heart of Pharaoh and his servants were turned regarding the people. Right? And they said, what have we done that we sent out the Jewish people from serving us? Who told the king of Paro? Who told the king of Egypt? Rashi. Vayugad u'melch Mitzrayim. Iktorin shalachim lahem. Pharaoh sent supervisors with them. Wow. This is an interesting midrash, that even when Pharaoh sent them away, he sent his consultants along to watch over them. He sent his consultants. They were never really released. He sent his consultants. Once they got the 3 days, they got 3 days, and they saw that they were not returning to Egypt. They told Pharaoh on day 4. They ran after them on day 5 and 6. And they came into the sea on the 7th day. On the 7th day, they sang the song, Yom Shvi Shel Pesach. That's the 7th day of Pesach. That's why we read the Shira on the 7th day of Pesach. It's a very significant, everybody should know that on the 7th day of Pesach, we read the Azia Shira prayer. Why? Because that's the day of the 7th, that's the day of the Shira. Okay, then we go on. What does the next Rashi say? Next Rashi, Vayafech. The heart of Pharaoh was turned. It was transformed from that which it was. Because Pharaoh had told them, Kumu tzu'u mitoch ami, arise and go out from among my people. And the heart of his servants were turned as well. Because in the past they used to say, how long will they be a snare to us? Now they started running after them on account of the property that they had lent them. So
support from, I thought it was, they took it. It was a loan transaction.
Well, the word was, it says sheshalu, that they borrowed the money. It says above in chapter 10, verse 7, that they borrowed the gifts.
It's a very long-term loan.
The Talmud asked the question. The Talmud contains a conversation that the Egyptian, that one of the later generations said, of the Egyptians said, give us back the money you borrowed from us. And the Jews responded, we'll return as soon as you give us the back wages. So, may avodotanu, from working for us. Okay, verse 7. Vaikach sheish me'od rechav bachur. Oh, this is your bar mitzvah parsha, Dan.
This is my bar mitzvah.
And they took 600. The word bachur here means like bachir, like special. 600 special chariots. But kol rechav, what?
Verse 6. You skipped.
Verse 6. Oh yeah. Vayasoros rechbo. Oh, this is a beautiful verse. And he harnessed his chariot. And he took his people with him. So Rashi says here, he did it himself. Rashi doesn't say here what he says about Bilam. Bilam harnesses his own donkey. Rashi says, Ahava mikalkelet hashura, and sina mikalkelet hashura. That when you're in passion, you don't think properly. Because why does Pharaoh have to harness his own chariot? He has servants to do that for him. He makes the fundamental point that when you're passionate about something, you're not seeing straight. It'd be like
All is fair in love and war.
No, it would be like, remember when George Bush flew the plane onto the boat? Imagine if George Bush had flown the plane into Iraq or Afghanistan himself to fight. No, it's insane. Nobody does that. So that's what it'd be like.
What was the phrase that was used when Abraham saddled his own donkey before the Akedah?
So it says that Avram got up early in the morning to do it himself. That he That love, Ava Mekalkelet Hashira, that Abraham did it himself. Abraham did it out of love for God. Okay, Ve'es Amoa Kachi, he took his people. Rashi says, Mashru b'dvarim, he took them with words. Wakinu v'natu mimonam v'shilachnu. He said, we've been smitten, they took our money, we sent them away. Bo me, come with me. Vanilo et nehegi machem keshar malachim. Come with me, and I will not treat you as other kings will. Derech shar malachim avadav kod min lo b'melchama. All other nations, the kings go before them. All other nations, all other nations, the servants go first. I'll go fight before you. Paro came close. He came close ahead of his troops. The other kings take their spoils first. He says, I'll divide up equal with you, as it says, I'll divide up the spoils. Bachur means select, like Nivcharim, the chosen ones.
Special forces.
Yeah, he took the chosen ones. Kol Rechav Mitzrayim, V'imahem Kol Shara Rechav, all the rest of the chariots. How did they have chariots left? Where did they get them? Wasn't everything destroyed? Rashi tells us. Where did all these chariots come from? Im Tomar Mishal Mitzrayim, say that they're Egyptians. All right, never can be that they're coming from the Egyptians. The verse says, Veikach kol miknei Mitzrayim. Vayamat kol miknei Mitzrayim. All the livestock died. Im Tomar Mishal Yisrael, if you say they belong to Israel, one of them are Gam mikneinu Yelech Imanu. The Jewish people took their own livestock. So Mishal Miyayu. So where did they get it from? Oh wow! Well, this is such a powerful Rashi. They got it from Yarei Dvar Hashem. They took the livestock from the Egyptians who were God-fearing. Mikana Rabbi Shimon Omer, Kasher Shebemitzrim Harog, Tov Shebenachoshem Ritzotz et Mocho. The best of the Egyptians kill them. The best, when even the best amongst the snakes crush his brain. So this Rashi is clearly not the most ecumenical Rashi in the Bible, but it's teaching us this powerful idea that when there's an enemy, even the best amongst them, Rashi is saying, even the God-fearing Egyptians were punished here. Which is very difficult idea. That might be the most difficult idea we've come across. I can understand hardening Pharaoh's heart, but even the God-fearing Egyptians, and the parable is to a snake, because a snake you can't trust. You can never trust a snake. Anybody have any comments about this?
I have two comments.
Yeah.
First one is that that these people may have just, it wasn't because they truly were fearing of God. They just didn't want their animals and servants to die, because that's what Moshe told them, right?
They could have been wicked even though they were God-fearing. They feared God, but they were still wicked.
And the second one is that I collect stamps, as you know, and Egypt.
How would I know? How would I know you collect stamps?
I thought I told you. Anyway, I recently have been looking through my Egyptian stamps, and almost every year they have been putting out a stamp for solidarity with the Palestinian people. These are supposedly a nation that made peace with us, the first one in the Middle East, but they're in solidarity of the Palestinians and of the two-state solution and all that. So you can't trust them. They haven't changed. I'm not saying that we should kill them like Rashi says, but you can't trust them. They're not good people.
The historical analogy that comes to my mind is the American Civil War, where even people who were abolitionists, and even if they did not support slavery, everybody in the country suffered from the Civil War, and Abraham Lincoln made that point. Like, he basically talked about the Civil War as being, America's punishment for having and tolerating the sin of slavery.
But it would be like the people in the South who were abolitionists were still going to be destroyed in the battle. When you go into battle,
And you let the fire loose.
everybody suffers in a war, even if you're on the losing side, even the people who are not in sympathy are going to suffer.
Yeah, actually, there were massive numbers of Confederate soldiers who did not own slaves. Massive.
Of course, because only the wealthy could own the slaves. So most of the people were not wealthy. Yeah, I mean, you can't imagine. I mean, it's a very expensive thing to own a slave. It's like you have to support, you have to feed, you also have to jobs for them to do. Okay, I mean, an uplifting note, obviously not. Obviously not, but should we pray now? Let's pray. Let's pray. Okay, my friends, sobering note to conclude today.
Yeah, sure.